everyone, and welcome to Life in the Fab Lane, a Maceo podcast. I'm Lindsay Ojeda, and I'm joined today with Andy Smith, one of Maceo's program engineers. We're going to real talk what it really means to have a true listening experience in fabrication and how important that is to the progress of our customers. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Want to tell a little bit about yourself and your experience at Maceo and in Metal Fab?
Yeah, certainly. I've been with Maceo for 7 years now. I actually started with the design team and kind of worked my way through the ranks here and been running and managing my own programs for the last few years. Every day is busy.
Every day is busy. So what does it mean to be a program manager at Maceo?
So everything comes through from our engineering side. I'm actually the voice of the customer to our manufacturing and our sales team, working through the details, trying to understand just what we need to make, how much, and what the challenges are that we're going to face, and help try and come up with those solutions and how we're actually going to make the product.
Perfect. So big picture, I think what we really want to start with is what happens when a new program lands on your desk, and tying that all back to what is the importance of listening and fabrication to make sure that we deliver what our customers are asking us for.
Yeah, certainly. So with every project comes along with its challenges. And the first thing that we look at is what challenges are we going to face with this? And by challenges, I mean, okay, what materials are you making the items out of? Is it an enclosure? Is it just piece parts? Is it, what are we trying to make? And I need to look and see what are the different things that we need to try and focus on to make sure that we can make it well. Want to consider things like overall size so that I know that we can fit it through the equipment in our plant. Are we going to need additional tooling? What kind of paint needs to go on the product? Things like that. Obviously, look into some of the required specs that come from the customer. And by specs, I mean, is it a NEMA rated enclosure? Is this something that's going to be outdoors? Do I need to make sure that you're not going to get anything wet inside? It's where I start kind of gauging at least what it is. And all I'm looking at that point is models, drawings, any information sent over from the customer before we have an initial conversation with them. So I have a little bit of background, at least understanding what I'm jumping into, if you will.
Right. And I mean, the interesting thing is you probably do a lot of question beyond the question, right? So someone comes and says, hey, I want a NEMA cabinet, but you're seeing some issues with maybe sealing or different areas where they would like holes or things like that. So once you look at these models and drawings and you get into that initial conversation with the customer, what are some of the items that you really dig into to kind of get that question behind the question, what they're really looking for on their scope?
When I'm going through my initial release on my initial scope on a project, anything that I can go and I can solve on my own. Obviously, we have our own internal constraints as far as equipment and things like that. But then I'm going and I'm jotting down those questions that I want to pose back at our customer when we have our initial kickoff with that customer, tying our engineering department with perhaps their engineering department or their technical side. I want to know things like, okay, what are your key dimensions that I need to make sure and hold? When we say NEMA 4, are we all on the same page what NEMA 4 or NEMA 3 really means and what requirements that actually entails as far as your product goes? Because that's going to mean different challenges. If I need to fully weld something as opposed to just skip welding something, well, then I got a lot of heat. Then I don't have to worry as much about distortion and things like that. It's taking that next level and, okay, I've got a bunch of assumptions based off what I was looking at on your information you sent me. This is our chance for me to start building that relationship with the customer side and understand really what that means when they put those things down on their drawings and their documentation.
Right. And I think that relationship point is especially important when we talk about listening in sheet metal and really understanding the requirements as well, because once we gain a great connection with the customer, it's much easier to have open communication overall. So the other thing I think it's important to mention is when you look at where we play in some really critical areas that don't have a lot of room for error. So data center, critical infrastructure, essential infrastructure, renewable energy. Can you talk about a time when you helped a customer solve a project where you really had to understand and listen to the scope to determine what they were really looking for on the fab side of things?
A good one to mention there that you started off with is the data center market. The data center market has all kinds of challenges that come with it. Timeline, you need to fit all the different equipment, you need to have all the different options available, things like that. We have several lines that we work with that tolerances are a topic on almost every conversation I've been involved in. Um, Trying to figure out how we can go and make this steel fit to the desired tolerances so that their equipment or the customer's equipment on the back end can fit into the units once they're shipped from our facilities. Really working with the customer and not only understanding, because it's one thing to go and look at a drawing or look at a spec and say, okay, here's my tolerances, this is what I need to fit. But getting an idea, what does that equipment look like? Even though that Maysteel is not going to be the ones to integrate or install for the customer, it helps us to go and start seeing what equipment are you mounting in, or how does it mount in is more important there. Because then I can start to develop from our engineering side and say, okay, I know I need to hold from point A to point B because that's how your shelf fits in, or things like that. So it gives you a little bit more insight and helps me be that voice of the customer when I'm working with our manufacturing team and helping build fixtures and how it's going to move through the floor, and saying, okay, we need to make sure we're holding this in weld because we know, us being the steel experts, things are going to move when you heat them up. So I need to make sure I'm counteracting that as best I can and helping our team be successful. And
Right, right. So a lot of what you're tying into is voice of customer. So what is, really one way or a few ways that you make your customers feel seen, heard throughout the process, so they're ensuring that they get exactly what you're talking about, what they want to spec?
I personally like to ask a lot of questions when we go into these designs. I want to know not only what are we as Maysteel pose with building, I want to know what types of environments, what's this going to look like outside of Maysteel, because it helps me get a bigger or a better understanding, if you will, of the bigger picture. If I know that these are going to be placed in and outside and we're going to be close together, well, then I know I need to, make sure my envelope is staying within a certain range. And I start to understand in that relationship with our customer just what's really important, because it's not always conveyed on the information on the drawing that comes across. Sometimes you get that just in conversation. So having weekly meetings or phone calls, and I'm always really prompt on making sure my contact information is shared with the right people with our customer side. So if they've got questions for me on capabilities, or if I've got questions for clarification, I'm not going to wait for another one. I'm going to say, okay, hey, I want to get, our customer on the phone. We'll do our thing, share our thing, and then you just let us know once you get it. I want to make sure you know along the way, sharing pictures, sharing details as far as our process, so they start to gain a better insight on what we go through to make their product. Not only helps us, but it helps the customer to understand what we have to go through to make what the picture looks like on their drawing.
Right, right. It's one thing to take a drawing. It's another thing to take a drawing or a model and make it in sheet metal. So I think those are all really great points. And I think they make a big difference with our customers. And I think when anyone's looking for a fabricator, a lot of times they look at the location, proximity to my shipping location, capabilities, etc. But a great program management team and management side of that really makes the difference when we talk about things like this and when challenges arise. So I'm going to ask the one question about being a program manager. What's your favorite part about being a program manager, right? You've gone through different positions within Maysteel to become a program manager, which is fantastic. But what drew you to becoming a program manager for our team?
I enjoy that it's fast paced. I'm always busy. I don't have slow days. And I like the change. I'm not working on the same thing over and over and over again. I'll work with one of my customers in the morning and go and face a challenge, and I may be focusing on a completely different customer, completely different challenge come that afternoon. It keeps the day interesting. It helps things move fast. I also get to learn a lot more outside of Maysteel does sheet metal fabrication. So I get to learn a lot more of a lot of other industries outside because I'm asking those questions. Okay, I'm making you a sheet metal box, but what goes into the box? How does it work? What does it do? From an engineering aspect, it's really cool to kind of see what technology we're being involved in from that for these different things that we're fabricating and painting and getting out the door.
Right, right. Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time today, Andy, and thanks for kicking this off. Everyone, please subscribe and stay tuned for more on Life in the Fab Lane, a Maysteel podcast.